Hello, everyone. Good evening once again, and welcome to Time to Talk, our bi weekly conversations about mediumship. Good evening, Guilherme. How are you doing?
Good evening, Rafael. Good evening, everyone. I'm doing very well indeed. Very happy to be here today as we are getting closer and closer to one of the most important days of the year. So, yes, I'm pretty happy to be here.
Me too. This is our last time to talk of the year, and because it's such a emblematic date and time of the year, we picked a theme that is super special and cannot wait to start talking about it. Cannot believe that today we are in our episode 36. So we have almost a year and a half now running Time to Talk. And it's been a privilege, an honor, um, a delight to be part of this initiative. And most important is it's been very nice to just be able to talk to everybody online and see their comments and participation. And yeah, another very good day. Let's hope today gonna have some comments, some participation again. I can see already some people online. I want to say hello to Lou, hello to Faye. Nice to see you here, and hello to Pablo. Very nice to have all of you with us. As usual, let me get our announcements before we kick off. Time to Talk is brought to us by these three broadcasters. I have the Spiritist Society of London, SSL. Guilherme and I are members of SSL. SSL is a group dedicated to studying Spiritism and spreading the teachings from Spiritism. We have a couple of sessions, study sessions that we run in the week, one online on Tuesdays, one face to face on Thursday. So if you would like to join us, have the details on our Facebook page. Second, BUS, British Union of Spiritist Societies. It's a federation that unites many Spiritist societies here in the UK. BUS also has a lot of initiatives related to spreading the word and the knowledge about Spiritism. Third is Kardec Radio, which has been around for over 11 years now. Kardec Radio has been committed to all these years with spreading the teachings about Spiritism in English around the world. So if you'd like to know more about them, go check their web pages, like their Facebook page, their LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, YouTube, and so you don't miss out on anything. Right, today we are on episode 36, and today's question is: was Jesus Christ a medium? And as I said, usually I'm the one asking for ideas of which kind of theme or question we should have here, and then I kick off the conversation asking the person who recommended the theme why they recommended the theme. Today I'm not going to be different, but the thing is, I recommended this theme, and I think it's very obvious, right? But I'm going to explain anyways why I'm suggesting this question, and I'm going to end the mystery. Um, but before I do that, I want to say hello to one more person that just joined us, Ebony. Hi, Ebony. Very nice to see you here with us. It's great that Ebony is here because she's going to shoot a lot of questions and comments. Right. Was Jesus Christ a medium? The reason why I brought this up is, of course, because of Christmas, right? And I want to just say straight away, I know that Christmas and the celebrations around this time of the year, they are not originally coming from Christian beliefs and Jesus Christ. There was more related to solstice and so on. And I guess the Christian faith kind of took over and re-signified it. And I am not trying to erase this. I think this is it's very good and it is in history. However, we cannot deny that nowadays the heavier meaning of Christmas, and I guess probably the one that is perpetuating towards is a moment to celebrate Christ, his life. And that is why I am suggesting this topic. In fact, there is a book, and from André Luiz, don't remember which one, that they describe the atmosphere of the planet on this date, on the 24th, 25th of December, and how it changes, like the wavelengths that take over the planet, and the conversations and initiatives and feelings and so on, they change, and it is perceived beyond our day to day. So there is a heavy link to Jesus, and just by celebrating his life, how that changes the way we think, the way we feel, the things we prioritize, the things we do, enough to change the whole atmosphere of the planet. So that is why I propose this theme. Guilherme, what do you think of this theme?
As you rightly said, this time of the year, we become more open to the spirituality, to Jesus, to charity. I think we're supposed to be like that 365 days a year, but we are not. So this time of the year is important to highlight or to refresh what is Christmas and what Jesus means to Christmas, to perhaps help people to think about him more often. The title of our encounter tonight is very interesting, because many people will say, look at that, just because they believe, blah, blah, blah. And that's not really what we're here for. If we start to understand that medium is a go-between something, in the sense of word, medium is an intermediary between two parts. On the Spiritism, medium means the intermediate, the go-between from the spiritual world to the earthly world. And what was Jesus to us? He was the go-between between our Father and us. So in that sense, I cannot deny that he was a medium. But going even further, in the Gospel, we find information of him doing few things that we could also find the explanation in the Spiritist book, on the Medium's book. So we could see on some of his gifts, I think is the best way to say, some of the gifts he left to us, clearly that he was a medium. So the question for me is straightforward. The answer is way too complicated.
There was another reason you touched it. Another reason why I also picked this question is because it can be controversial, right? I think especially when you're thinking about how many religions exist dedicated to following Christ and understanding his example, and it's very mediumship is still seen with a stigma of something wrong and so on, and for many religions. So the question on its own is controversial. But Guilherme just pointed out in a very direct way, if we think about, if we move away from the any preconcepts about mediumship, and we understand the word in your simplest term, in between, we cannot in any circumstance say that he wasn't a medium between God and between us. Even bigger than that, I think it was between God's creation and plan and perfection and laws and us. He was the one that brought that understanding. It was the one that brought the explanation, and so on. So even before going into specific passages where you can see it can be explained through mediumship, one cannot deny that he was this connection, right, between God and us. We have a question already. Pablo is asking us, let me bring this up. If Jesus was a medium, was he aided by lower spirits? What do you have to say about that, Guilherme?
I need to understand what the word aided really means. What does it mean?
I guess helped, supported. Okay. I would guess it was in that sense.
So we have then to understand that Jesus was by far the highest, more moral, elevated spirit among us. Why he would need an assistance from a lower spirit? He was surrounded by lower spirits because we are very low in comparison to him. So he was surrounded, and that's why he was here for. Because if we are in a place where everyone has the same level of us, we will never evolve. So from time to time, we need someone with a little bit of perspective or more moral evolution or more knowledge to come in the group to try to teach those what to do for the future. I believe he was really surrounded by highly elevated spirits, giving him support in his journey on earth. But, and that is something very important, he always welcomed us lower spirits with open arms. Because that's why he came here for. There isn't a single remark saying that he refused to help, to give love, to treat anyone that asked him for it. And all of them, they asked for help in comparison to Jesus himself, were quite low on the scale, like we are quite low on the scale. So, yes, he was a medium. He was a medium from very, very high.
You said something that was the same thing that I had in my mind, which is that Jesus came to help, and when in previous sessions we always talked about how mediumship, the importance of mediums to try to work on their own progress and wavelength and try to move away from items that might indicate that they are pride or they're selfish and so on, because those would be the things that spirits around them would identify as similarities and get closer to them and end up affecting their development and their work as mediums. So if we just apply a simple parallel to Jesus, and if you think about Jesus as the perfect spirit, the highest spirit present here on earth or responsible for earth, it's difficult, right? Imagine which spirits would be able to find similarities and be close to him, get closer to him based on what they have in common. And so on its own, you have like the lower spirits, so probably not the ones helping them, but the ones that were following him to learn, to heal, to see the example, and so on. But that takes us to a very good point, which Ebony is bringing up here. And I think that's interesting hook for some other items I wanted to talk about. Some watching who believe that Jesus was God on earth would disagree with this topic. And that is very true, and probably comes from a different concept on what Jesus, on who Jesus, not who Jesus was, but what Jesus was. And I can develop on that a little bit, but Guilherme had his hand
No,
up.
go on.
And many of us, when we start to reflect and study a bit more about Jesus, his example, his life, and in many cases, people who teach their version, their understanding of Jesus and the relationship between us as spirits, Jesus, and God, they kind of do a distinction between Jesus and the rest of us. And the more we reflect and the more we study, especially guided by the concepts and the clarity that the spirits bring to us, we see that God created all of us the same, right? We all created in the same way, simple and ignorant, and we are all given same opportunities to develop, to learn, to grow, to achieve our potential. And it would have been unfair, it wouldn't make sense if God is perfect, if his creation is a reflection of how perfect he is and how good he is. It wouldn't make sense. It would be unfair to have beings that were created better than others, with more power than others. That would indicate unfairness, which is something that cannot go hand in hand with the perfection and goodness of God. So based on that, what we understand that Jesus was a spirit just like us. He was created the same way as us. However, in his journey, he has developed and achieved a level of progress and a level of virtues much, much higher than us, but one that we will one day achieve as well. Ebony, you mentioned something in the study earlier that I'm going to steal with pride and use it many times, which is it's not that we are imperfect spirits, but we are all perfectible spirits. And Christ, he is also perfectible, but he was also perfectible. However, he's already there at the end game. He's already perfect. So when we start to think about this and perceiving Jesus as nothing different than us in terms of how he was created and what he is, then you can understand that the same laws they apply to us, the same ability we have to communicate with spirits, the same thing we go through in terms of reincarnation, influence that we have from spirits. He has the same. He abides to the same laws. So I think that's probably the first differentiation, I guess, in terms of how Spiritism understands Jesus and his example, and some other um, lines of thought from Christianity. Guilherme, I went on a
Mhm.
essay here.
First, I would like to say that we are not here to convince anyone about anything, nor to please or unplease someone about what we believe. We are here to share the little we know. We are not the voice of the truth, but we use as a reference the spirit of truth that was presented by the Spiritism by Caldas. Jesus himself, he told more than once, "My Father that art in heaven," never stops. "Father, forgive me. Father, they don't know what they are doing." So in his own journey, he presented many times that he was not God. But as always, as a human being, we always believe in what we want to believe. Likewise, today, if any of us get a computer, an iPhone, an MP3 player, and some tablet, if you go to the center of the Amazon forest, where they still have some indigenous tribes that had none to very little, very little to none contact with civilization, if we present ourselves with a fancy cloth, showing images on the computer, blah, 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 they may believe we are gods. As we did through history, we thought people that had more evolution than we did were gods, and they were not gods. Returning to what Jesus said, "I'm not the Father, He is the Father. I'm His Son. My Father works constantly, so should I." So we have enough information that give us the confidence that He was indeed a special Son. He is indeed our governor of this planet. But there are things we do not know. You mute, Rafael.
Yep. Oops. There's another item that comes to whenever we research or read about um, Jesus Christ and mediumship. Um, I think one of them is the different passages and how the multiple so-called miracles um, that he um, manifested can be explained by mediumship, indicating that Jesus was a medium. But there's also another perspective, which is the one that Guilherme initiated with, which is that Jesus wasn't just an irregular medium, but Jesus is considered and called the medium of God. And I want you just to take a look at before in the first perspective. When we were studying about physical effects, mediums are able to see, mediums are able to hear, and so on. That explains many passages in the Bible, right? When you think about the ability that Jesus had to cure people, how many passages don't we have when we indicate that people that were just absolutely very ill, or even they have some people in their family that was ill, and it wasn't even in the presence of Jesus, but they they had a very strong belief that Jesus could cure them, and only by touching Jesus or by getting in contact with him or just getting closer to him, how many of those cases did not cure themselves? And that is very thoroughly explained by a type of mediumship, which is healing, it's a cure. That comes from, again, the manipulation of fluids and so on. There's also the passages where Christ would anticipate things that would happen in the future, and they would share with them. I think probably one of them, the most famous one, is when he turned to Judas and said that he would betray him, or when he turned it to Peter and said that he would deny him. Again, that could be explained by the mediumistic phenomena and other passages. So I think if we start to study a bit about mediumship and the different types, and if we use that perspective to analyze the multiple passages, they're called either miracles or different passages in Christ history, Christ's storyline, you can see that it gives you a better explanation on how things worked back then, without breaking any laws laws of nature, laws of God, and without any magical terms or situations around it. So that was the first perspective that I wanted to bring. And don't know if you have anything to add, Guilherme, on this one before we go to the medium of God.
No, I don't. I was having some thoughts here, but no, it's better not to share right now.
Okay. And the second one is there is a third one, but I'm going to keep that for last. The second one, which was the medium of God, and that one I'm going to ask you, Guilherme. Why is Jesus considered, and especially when you're talking about Spiritism, called the medium of God?
Rafael, he is the medium of the mediums. He is by far the most elevated medium we ever had. His sensibility was way above the greatest medium we know. He was prepared for it. And he gave us enough information, and even better, examples. What a medium is, what a medium should do, what you should do with your mediumship. He was medium 24/7. He was always prepared to help at any moment in time. He was always prepared to use his mediumship to help those in need anytime. He never asked for anything in return, even less material and financial things. He did charity to everyone that came closer to him. We have plenty of examples in the gospel. He did charity to any discarnated spirit that came closer to him. Sometimes we misunderstand charity with a smile. No. Charity is when you help someone. And everyone that came closer to him during his existence on earth was helped anyway. That's what a medium is. We should be available. We should be prepared to help any incarnated, undiscarnated spirit without looking to him saying that, no, you're not part of it. No, you should not be treated here. No, you have a different color. You speak a different language. He never said that, anything like that. He welcomed every one of them with open arms. And why he's the medium of God? Because he brought information that is still way above our understanding. We are studying the gospel more than 2,000 years, and we're still learning to be polite here. We're still learning. We practice very little. So the information he brought to us was so elevated that 2,000 years later, we're still having lots of difficulties to practice. The information he brought was so elevated that must have come from someone even greater than him. Himself mentioned that my father did this, not me. It is another great example for all the mediums. Because nowadays and ever, a lot of mediums believe they are doing something. I am treating someone, I'm healing someone, I am fixing the problem here and there. This is an illusion. Mediums are only go between. Start to realize from where this is truly coming. It's from our benefactors, from the spirits that are more elevated than us. And on his case, we have a firm belief that he was keeping a straight contact with the Father. And for me, that's why I understand that he's the medium of the mediums, and he still the medium of God.
Interesting that you said that, because the what was the word? You used a word that triggered something here, but it's the usually when you talk about God, it's very common for us to think of God as a person, right? As someone who thinks like us but has power and so on. And in reality, I think the more we reflect upon what is God, we will understand and realize that it's not how it works. It's God's beyond that. We don't really have the ways of fully understanding and realizing it, but it's beyond that. So when we think Jesus is, or when you say that Jesus is like the medium of God, it's not in the same aspect as we have mediums here that receive messages and are able to see things and so on, but it's beyond that. I think the perfection that Jesus exemplify in his life, and the understanding that he has in charity, in service, in what are the things that should really be driving our behaviors, and what is the right thing to do from us, and having that very clear understanding and having that understanding being the base of every single action that you take in your life, the understanding of the laws from God, and the law of love and the law of charity and the law that govern us all, and be to the point that everything you do is a testimony to the understanding of these laws. That's how you are the medium of God. It's because every single thought, action, reaction has those laws as the starting point and the principle behind it. And again, it's beyond our, I guess, our understanding. But when I think about Jesus as the medium of God, I think in those ways, not that he's the one receiving the message and passing on to us, but he is the one that understands the message to the level that everything he does, he did, and he does still, is a testimony to those laws. And is that how God intended us to behave? And I think that's why he's the medium of God. I have a third perspective here when we talk about mediumship and Jesus. And this one, Guilherme, you touched a little bit in the beginning of your explanation, which is Jesus being the example of how to work on our improvement, on ourselves, so we become better people, so we move away from spirits that are not as elevated or not interested in work that is charitable, and so on. And there is a book which is called the Spirit of Truth. And in this book, there is a chapter, chapter 5, which is pretty much called the Decalogue, if that's how you say this word, the Decalogue to Mediums, which is like the 10, I guess, teachings or items for mediums. And all of those items is pretty much as guidance. It comes from, you see it in Jesus' life and how he dealt with in his life. I'm going to bring this up in a second so we can take a look together. But before we do that, I see there's another comment here. Let me just double check. See, Pablo is saying, in some passages of the gospel, such as transfiguration or turning water to wine, people tend to attribute that to divinity. How that fall into mediumship? Guilherme, do you want to have a go?
Was Jesus, or better, was only Jesus who could perform transfiguration? No. We have plenty of records of mediums, simple mediums. They also could perform transfigurations. This is part of the physical effects branch of mediumship. So that answers the first half of the question. Turning water into wine. What is magnetism? What is the knowledge of properties, of matter, of nature? When you combine everything, when you are able, through the assistance of good spirits, to perform changes. Do we have records of water turning into wine nowadays? No, we don't. But we do have records of similar type of events happening in every corner of the globe, treating, healing, performing spiritual surgeries using the same principle. Is the same thing. Apportation, transportation, materializations, all of it use the same principles: the fluid, the spirit, the will. Can we turn water into wine ourselves? Not yet. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? Jesus himself said that you all are gods. You can do the same and even more than what I did. So, believing on his words, eventually we will. Today, no. We don't have the same capacity as mediums as he had. He was the medium. We are trying to be mediums. It's a bit different.
Yep.
What is divinity? Divinity is God? Yes. But as always, even preconized by Kardec, we have first to eliminate everything from the equation to really point into the spirits. And then we should do the same about the spirits. We have to evaluate everything before we point to God. Knowing that he allows or do not allow something to happen, he do have the control of everything. As a ultimate resource, he is the key. But benefactors, they can do a lot of things too. Benefactors of the benefactors can do a bit more. And Jesus can do way, way more than we all can do. So that's why we believe those events mentioned in the gospel falls into mediumship.
Very nicely put, Guilherme. I have a couple of other comments. I'm going to bring them up. So Marco, hello Marco, nice to see you here with us. He's just agreeing with some of the comments that we made, saying that Jesus was the most perfect medium that's already passed through this planet. He is so wonderful that he said that all of us could do the same as him and much more, just like you mentioned, Guilherme. And he wouldn't let us all orphans. He would send the Spirit of truth, both from bringing the knowledge to us, and also quite literally when you read messages in the Gospel according to Spiritism, how much is revealed in that. Some of the messages are even signed by the Spirit of truth. And the second comment I have here is from Ebony. Mediumship as a phenomenon attracts. Jesus attracts everyone to him as he serves as the example of how mediums are to treat everyone they attract. That's what Guilherme was mentioning about magnetism. Not only magnetism in the sense of physical phenomena, but everything that all of our interactions, they respond and they obey to this principle of magnetism, right? And the attraction that people felt to him came from this power of magnetism that he had. Okay. Right. I think we will have some time, 15 minutes. I will bring it's a very brief summary, right? We're just going to go quickly through the items of the Decalogue to the mediums. And the interesting part is that the Decalogue comes with passages from the Bible, from the apostles and so on, indicating all those teachings coming from Jesus, either from his speech and parables or from his examples himself. So let me share my screen again. There you go. As I said, I took this from the book, The Spirit of Truth, chapter 5. So, and again, this is linked to the third perspective that we talk about when we see mediumship with Jesus and Jesus and mediumship, but as the ultimate example of how to be a better medium, a better person, how to, I guess, fulfill the plans that God had for us. So, first one, worship the duty. So, I have here a passage from Luke. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. Then Acts, but we will give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the word. So here, worship to the duty, the commitment to work. Yes, that's the element. We mentioned this pretty much every single episode, how the commitment, how the work, that is an indication of how serious you are in terms of how serious the mediums are in terms of serving to that call that is mediumship. 2. Work spontaneously. I must work the works of him that sent me, while it is day. The night comes when no man can work. This one is talking about not missing the opportunity, right? If you are in this life, we talk about reincarnation a few times as well. If right now in this life you have the call to be a medium, you have that element, a characteristic in you, treat that as the gift that it is, the invitation to work, the invitation to do good, the invitation to see life from that perspective and put that to good work, because you don't know how long that opportunity will be with you in this life, and if it will be again in the next one. So let's make use, and I guess that goes not only for mediumship but for anything, right? Take the opportunity now to do what you need to do, to work, to get involved with initiatives, to be a better person. That's the, I guess that's the message. Number 3. Oops. Number 3. Don't see yourself bigger or smaller. Now I have from John. By this shall all men know that you are my disciple, if you have love one to another. Remember, we were talking about the beginning, how God created us all the same, simple in ignorance, and therefore we are no better than one another. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, especially from the perspective of pride. Treat one another like an equal. Number 4, don't expect rewards in this world. That one comes a lot in multiple passages. Here you have Matthew, that your alms may be in secret, and your Father which sees in secret himself shall reward you openly. Here you put I guess the importance of our spiritual life, of our real life, which is the spiritual life before the material life. That the benefits that you will get from dedicating yourself to charitable work, to improving yourself, to building your virtues, that's a benefit that you will not see now. It's not something to be enjoyed right now in this physical body, but it's something that you carry with you and you will enjoy in your spiritual life. We had a passage in the Spirit's book that we were reading about self-knowledge, and it pretty much talks about how nowadays now in our lives we work so we can retire, or so can we enjoy something else in the future, right? So we have the ways of enjoying life or resting in the future, and there's an element of a parallel here in terms of let's put the working now, but the benefit we'll enjoy in our spiritual life. Next one. 5. Don't centralize the action. And here we have Matthew. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the middle of them. it doesn't matter where you are, who you are with, it doesn't matter the venue you are in. What matters is that you are involved in doing good. There are initiatives that you get involved with. And if there aren't any initiatives or places that you feel comfortable near you, then become one, create one, generate one. And do not wait to be in the right place at the right time according to this or that to start the action, to start the work. Number 6, don't imprison yourself in doubt. Here you have Luke. If you had faith as a grain of mustard seed, you might say to this sycamore tree, be you plucked up by the root, and be you planted in the sea, and it should obey you. And Mark, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Faith is an interesting word to reflect upon, and I think the message of don't be imprison yourself in doubt is how strong is your faith? How much do you believe? If your belief is rooted in knowing, your faith will be indestructible. Is that a word? I don't know. You cannot destroy your faith. But that will come from knowing. They'll come from studying and reflecting and realizing the way things work, why they are the way they are, understanding that good spirits, Jesus, and so on, they are behind us. We are part of their plans to get things going, not the other way around. And with that realization, we don't have any space for doubt anymore. And whatever we put our minds to in terms of doing good work and improving ourselves, we'll have no doubts that we'll achieve. Only four left, so bear with me. 7, study always. Also something that we repeat a lot in here. And now I have from Luke the passage. The knowledge of the mysteries of the kingdom of God has been given to you. But to others I speak in parables, so that though seeing they may not see, though hearing they may not understand. That is very connected to what we were just saying in the previous one, right? In terms of how much your faith needs to be rooted in knowing and not just believing because you were told so. And for you to get to that level, you need to study, you need to reflect, you need to read, you need to see for yourself. So dedicate to always studying and reflecting. Number 8, don't get angry. Matthew, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That one, difficult, right? But I guess there's no better example of patience than Jesus and everything that he faced, and the persecution he faced, and the betrayals that he faced. And there's not a single word in talking about Jesus losing his mind, being upset, being angry, right? So that also comes from knowing things and understanding how things work and knowing that everything happens for a reason, and then we have the support that we need. So don't get angry. The last 2, forgive incessantly. And here you have Matthew. Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. And that is one that we need to be reminded of so many times. Let things go. Don't be stuck on people that hurt you or things that didn't go as you planned because somebody else did something different. Let go, forgive. Or at least remember that that's the duty. Try to do that. And the last one, don't fear persecutors. And here from Luke we have, but Jesus spoke up at once. Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. Whenever you are studying something new or learning something new or trying to change the way you do things, or there's always a fear that with change there will be resistance, and maybe people that were with you might not be with you anymore, or they might see you differently. So if you know you're in the right path, you're doing the right thing, you should not fear that. So don't let that be an impediment for you to live and do things the way you want to, because you have a higher aspiration in your mind. Completely took over the minutes, Guilherme, but I'm happy for you to, add anything, make any comments, criticize, deny, reject.
I was thinking on the last one, the item number 10. Every time when we try to do something to help others, to bring knowledge to others, to increase or to diversify, multiply means of doing charity, we take attack. We get attention. We get attention. Do not be afraid. Do what you must. Don't look back. Move forward. If you know what you are doing, if you have been committed to what you are doing, if you are doing in His name, and you have the results of what you're doing in His name, and the results are positive, you have your answer. We cannot please everyone. He did not please everyone. And yet, here we are. Rafael, we have now less than 3 minutes, and I would like to do something different today.
Okay.
We are closer to his birthday, and as such, I would like to do a prayer in his name.
Please do. That's beautiful.
Master Jesus, here we are, once again getting closer to the most beautiful day ever, your birthday. That is something that humanity will never be able to replace in our hearts, in our history, because you have changed the essence of what we are, or at least what we should be. Master Jesus, that your love could reach every corner of this world, bringing peace to those that are suffering in the flesh and in spirit. Those that are suffering the misunderstanding of the human being. The humankind are yet not there. And in your birthdays, my Lord, my brother, my master, we ask your forgiveness because we are so little. But we are getting there. Wait for us. I know you are. Receive your gratitude, our gratitude, in this day. Not only for that particular moment in time, but for everything you taught us, everything you demonstrate for us. Grateful that we are, we would like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday, my brother. So be it.
So be it. Thank you, Guilherme, for this beautiful and inspired prayer. And I hope that this, the feeling, this emotion that it takes over now is shared and is spread and felt by all of our friends who are watching us and joining us today, and the ones that will watch us later on whenever they need. May this be a multiplier every time we watch this and remember him and we think of him as the example that he is. And let's take this time now in these moments of the year to reflect upon his example and how we can bring it closer to our hearts and to our lives. I want to say thank you to everyone that joined us and for the messages. Faye, Marco, Ebony, Pablo, and Lu. Thank you very much for being with us. Guilherme, thank you very, very much for this partnership and being here with me. Very grateful for that. And we will be together again next year in 2 weeks. So that is a goodbye from me and for you, Guilherme. Go.
Yes, it is a goodbye and Merry Christmas, everyone. Let's enjoy the night because this is a family night. See you all very soon.
Bye.